So, I think the current Chute logo is very much of the time, right? Like, I think, like, it sort of, like, is many of the concepts that people are very used to now. Like, we swim in the idea of, like, the cloud. Like, regular consumers sort of, like, know the cloud, right? Like, it's used in regular commercials. So I think, like, the idea of, like, the original idea we had of, like, turning a cloud into a camera, just, I think, is a somewhat everlasting sort of mentality for, like, all of this stuff that's happening, right?
So it's short, right?
It's
5
short.
characters. It's difficult to come up with names that are that unique. The play on photography with Chute, Chute and SHOOT is still, I think, clever. It sometimes requires explaining. It can be a drawback, I think, when you're spelling the name for people, but then I think it ends up being a net positive.
Yeah.
It's action oriented and it does work in a number of different ways.
Part of the challenge with this exercise is we identify entirely with our name. We've had it for a few years. We feel like it suits us perfectly. It's memorable. It's unique, and even conceiving of things that are different than it is, I think, inherently a big challenge. Brands seek exposure. Consumers are now creating media themselves, and to see that sort of exposed is also, I think, a big part of it here. Their voice is heard, and of course, so the tagline we chose for this is real-time visual media. So again, the capturing of kind of real-time content all over the world, and then I guess really bringing that into focus, making that useful.
Phosphor. I like this name actually, and I like the sort of like elemental feel that the sort of the flame is like very simple. I think like there can be lots of variations on it. I think like a great brand and mark sort of like can be interpreted lots of ways and still play like forward. I think like the notion of a phosphor is really powerful and simple, right? But it doesn't have shape, doesn't have like definition, but like can mean lots of things to lots of people. I love the idea, and the tagline we chose here is like igniting the visual revolution. I think like we're firm and solid believers in this idea of a visual revolution, and like the idea of igniting it, like sort of like in a lot of ways it is what we're doing, right? We're going out and championing these use cases and this kind of thinking. So I think that's a super powerful concept to apply, regardless of the mark we end up with.
We're a conduit, from various steps of workflow, and ultimately we're a conduit for publishing, and I think so that Chute still resonates there, it still works, and people get it, and actually, we get a lot of feedback on how cool the name is, and I'm like, hey, we need to shoot for this. Like, that's great, that's what we need people saying every day.
Empowering is in a lot of ways very powerful, very like true to our cause, right? Like we're providing like a technology layer in a lot of ways that just is addressable by a very broad audience, right? Like from individuals to enterprise, we are still helping power solutions.